Hey guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, I'm going to be sharing with you some recommendations for World War I. So, yeah, let's get going with this recommendations video, you guys. All going to be about World War I in some capacity. Whether books primarily dealing with characters like in the war, or characters who they may not be participating in the war, but the war is still a major influence, if that makes sense. So yeah, World War I, a very turbulent war, massive casualties affecting everybody, taking place between 1914 to 1918, and yeah, a lot of shit went down. So yeah, it makes for excellent book material, I think. You know, a nice chunk of time that you can explore a lot, have characters face a lot of stuff. So yeah, I managed to find 15 books, and yeah, this is not even all of it. There's a lot for World War I. Yeah, a lot of fiction has primarily dealt with World War II. World War II is definitely very popular when it comes to historical fiction. But yeah, I think in recent years, World War I has been getting a lot more focus and attention, especially since, you know, we kind of hit that milestone of 100 years, you know, this past decade or so. You know, 2014 to 2018, you know. So yeah, there was definitely a surge of World War I material during that little span of time. So yeah, let's get going, guys. I have 15 books here, and I'm also going to be reading from the Goodreads synopsises to make this video go by faster. And yeah, if you want to know more about these books, I highly recommend checking out their individual Goodreads pages. Ooh, and I get a nifty little glow on my face. And now I look like I'm dead or a spirit or something. This is really creepy. I don't know. I don't know how to turn the light down. I'm sorry if this looks weird on the screen, you guys. Let's get going. The first book I have here, A Long Way by Sebastian Barry. In 1914, Willie Dunn, barely 18 years old, leaves behind Dublin, his family, and the girl he plans to marry in order to enlist in the Allied forces and face the Germans on the Western Front. Once there, he encounters a horror of violence and gore he could not have imagined, and sustains his spirit with only the words on the pages from home and the camaraderie of the mud-covered Irish boys who fight and die by his side. Dimly aware of the political tensions that have grown in Ireland in his absence, Willie returns on leave to find a world split and ravaged by forces closer to home. Despite the comfort he finds with his family, he knows he must rejoin his regiment and fight until the end. That sounds really great. This has like a bunch of different things going on, you know, the war and plus like life at home for him in Ireland. Next, this is a book. I've not read the book yet, but I'm dying to read it. But it has been made into a mini-series with Eddie Redmayne and Clements Posey that I really enjoyed. And yeah, this is Bird Song by Sebastian Faulks. And Goodreads just has a very basic plot summary for this one. And yeah, it just says that this book follows a young Englishman by the name of Stephen Raisford as he passes through a tempestuous, am I pronouncing that? Like tempestuous love affair with Isabelle Azer in France, and enters the dark, surreal world beneath the trenches of no man's land. And yeah, I love the miniseries for this, you guys. The trench warfare aspect of it was just absolutely horrible and gruesome. So yeah, if you love that miniseries, you might want to check out this book if you have not already. Next, Fall of Giants by Ken Follett, and this is book 1 in this particular trilogy. And yeah, this is called the Century Trilogy, and it essentially goes throughout the entirety of the 20th century. But yeah, the first book primarily focuses on World War I, it sounds like, to my understanding. Whereas, you know, book 2, I think, gets into like World War II, and the book 3 gets into like the Vietnam War, I want to say. So yeah, this book, it starts off in 1911. It's the coronation day of King George V. The Williams family, they're a coal mining family. And they have enmity towards the Fitzherbert family, who are more like aristocratic coal miners. So yeah, it's like you have these two families of coal miners, but One's a bit more prosperous than the other, it sounds like. So yeah, Lady Maud Fitzherbert falls in love with Walter von Ulrich, a spy at the German embassy in London. Oh dear. Their destiny is entangled with that of an ambitious young aide to U.S. President Woodrow Wilson and two orphaned Russian brothers whose plans to immigrate to America fall foul of war, conscription, and revolution. And a plot of unfolding drama and intriguing complexity, Fall of Giants moves seamlessly from Washington to St. Petersburg, from the dirt and danger of a coal mine to the glittering chandeliers of a palace, from the corridors of power to the bedrooms of the mighty. So yeah, this book sounds like it starts a little prior to World War I, but then it gets into the war, and maybe a little after that, it sounds like. Next, Last Christmas in Paris, by Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb, and this book is August 1914, sorry. England is at war as Evie Elliott watches her brother Will and his best friend Thomas Harding depart for the front. She believes, as everyone does, that it will be over by Christmas. Very naive of you to think. When the trio plan to celebrate the holiday among the romantic cafes of Paris. But as history tells us, it all happened so differently. Evie and Thomas experience a very different war. Frustrated by life as a privileged young lady, Evie longs to play a greater part in the conflict, but how? And as Thomas struggles with the unimaginable realities of war, he also faces personal battles back home where War Office regulations on press reporting cause trouble at his father's newspaper business. Through their letters, Evie and Thomas share their greatest hopes and fears and grow ever fonder from afar. Can love flourish amid the horror of the First World War, or will fate intervene? It's going to end tragically, guys. I'm predicting it already. God, seriously, is this irritating you guys? This glow? It's really irritating me. I cannot stand this glow, you guys. I know it has to look horrible. Next, Mata Hari's Last Dance by Michelle Moran. Paris in 1917. The notorious dancer Mata Hari sits in a cold cell, awaiting freedom or death. Alone and despondent, Mata Hari is as confused as the rest of the world about the charges she's been arrested on. Treason leading to the deaths of thousands of French soldiers. As Mata Hari awaits for her fate to be decided, she relays the story of her life to a reporter who is allowed to visit her in prison. Beginning with her carefree childhood, Mata Hari recounts her father's cruel abandonment of her family, as well as her calamitous marriage to a military officer. Taken to the island of Java, Mata Hari refuses to be ruled by her abusive husband and instead learns to dance, paving the way to her stardom as Europe's most infamous dancer. From exotic Indian temples and glamorous Parisian theaters to stark German barracks and war-torn Europe, international bestseller Michelle Moran balances fact and fiction to bring this story to vibrant life of the famed world of Mata Hari, dancer, courtesan, and possibly spy. Okay, that sounds pretty awesome, you guys. I definitely gotta pick up this book. Next, Somewhere in France by Jennifer Robson. I think I have a couple different Jennifer Robson books in this particular video, guys, but yeah. Let's see. Lady Elizabeth Neville Ashford wants to travel the world, pursue a career, and marry for love. But in 1914, the stifling restrictions of aristocratic British society and her mother's rigid expectations forbid Lily from following her heart. When war breaks out, the spirited young woman seizes her chance for independence. Defying her parents, she moves to London and eventually becomes an ambulance driver, that's cool, in the newly formed Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. An exciting and treacherous job that takes her close to the Western Front. This almost sounds like Queen Elizabeth II, you guys, because wasn't she an ambulance driver for like World War II, I want to say? Assigned to a field hospital in France, Lily is reunited with Robert Fraser, her dear brother Edward's best friend. The handsome Scottish surgeon has always encouraged Lily's dreams. She doesn't care that Robbie grew up in poverty. She yearns for her friendly affection to become something more. Lily is the most beautiful and forbidden woman Robbie has ever known. Fearful for her life, he's determined to keep her safe, even if it means breaking her heart. This almost sounds like Downton Abbey, you guys. This is like very similar to Downton Abbey. Next, The Absolutist by John Boyne. It is September 1919. 21-year-old Tristan Sadler takes a train from London to Norwich to deliver a package of letters to the sister of Will Bancroft, the man he fought alongside during the Great War. But the letters are not the real reason for Tristan's visit. He can no longer keep a secret, and has finally found the courage to unburden himself of it. As Tristan recounts the horrific details of what to him became a senseless war, he also speaks of his friendship with Will, from their first meeting on the training grounds at Aldershot to their farewell in the trenches of northern France. The intensity of their bond brought Tristan happiness and self-discovery, as well as confusion and unbearable pain. Is this going to be like a secret love affair between these two men that happen, bonding through war and the horribleness of the war? I have a feeling this is like a gay love story, which I'm very interested in. Next, The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. Let's see. This is a book, I decided to put this book here in this video because there's a chunk of the book that takes place in World War I, but then there's also a chunk that takes place in World War II. So yeah, whenever I do my recommendations for World War II, this book might pop up again because, yeah, the two chunks that are in both particular wars. So yeah, I'll just tell you what relates to World War I for right now, I guess. So yeah, 1915, a year into the Great War, Eve Gardner burns to join the fight against the Germans and unexpectedly gets her chance when she's reunited to work as a spy. Sent into enemy-occupied France, she's trained by the mesmerizing Lily, the Queen of Spies, who manages a vast network of secret agents right under the enemy's nose. And then, yeah, there's a big time jump of 30 years to World War II, it sounds like. And yeah, like I said, if you want to know more about this book, go check out the Goodreads summary, because, yeah, I'm primarily focusing on World War I related stuff, so yeah. Next, The Echo of Twilight by Judith Kinghorn. And I think I have a couple different Judith Kinghorn books in this particular video. In 1914, despite the clouds of war threatening Europe, Pearl Gibson's future is bright. She has secured a position as a lady's maid to a wealthy Northumberland aristocrat, a job that will win her not only respect, but an opportunity to travel and live in luxury. Her new life at Lady Otterline Campbell's Scottish summer estate is a whirlwind of intrigue and glamour, scandals and confidences, and surprisingly, a strange but intimate friendship with her employer. But when violence erupts in Europe, Pearl and Otterline's world is irrevocably changed, as the men in their lives are called to the front lines, leaving them behind to anxiously brace for bad news. Pearl realizes she must share one final secret with her mistress, a secret that will bind them together forever. Ooh, what could it be? Next, The Girl You Left Behind by Jojo Moyes. And I think this is like 2 or 3 books in this particular series. Paris, 1916. Sophie Lefevre must keep her family safe while her adored husband, Edouard, fights at the front. When their town falls to the Germans in the midst of World War I, Sophie is forced to serve them every evening at her hotel. From the moment the new commandant sets eyes on Sophie's portrait, painted by her artist husband, a dangerous obsession is born. One that will lead Sophie to make a dark and terrible decision. Almost a century later, Sophie's portrait hangs in the home of Liv Halston, a wedding gift from her young husband before his sudden death. After a chance encounter reveals the portrait's true worth, a battle begins over its troubled history, and Liv's world is turned upside down all over again. Ooh, this sounds very, very intriguing. Next, The Last Summer by Judith Kinghorn. And this is a book that I have read, and I did really enjoy it. Clarissa is almost 17 when the spell of her childhood is broken. It is 1914, the beginning of a blissful golden summer and the end of an era. Her family estate is in its heyday. The large country house filled with the laughter and excitement of privileged youth preparing for a weekend party. When Clarissa meets Tom Cuthbert, home from university and staying with his mother, the housekeeper, she is dazzled. Tom is handsome and enigmatic. He is also an outsider. Ambitious, clever, his sights set on a career in law, Tom is an acute observer and a man who knows what he wants. For now, that is Clarissa. As Tom and Clarissa's friendship deepens, the wider landscape of political life around them is changing, and another story unfolds. They are not the only people in love. Soon the world and all that they know is rocked by a war that changes their lives forever. This was a very dramatic book, guys. A very dramatic book. Next, The Lie by Helen Dunmore, and this is a book that I have also read, but me personally, I did not enjoy it that much. I just don't, it had a great concept, but I just don't think it was entirely executed very well at points, but I'm still going to include it in this, this video in case you might be interested in it. This is set in Cornwall in 1920. A young man stands on a headland looking out to sea. He is back from the war, homeless and without family. Behind him lie the mud, barbed wire entanglements, and terror of the trenches. Behind him is also the most intense relationship of his life. Daniel has survived, but the horror and passion of the past seem more real than the quiet fields around him. He is about to step into the unknown, but will he ever be able to escape the terrible, unforeseen consequences of a lie? And, yeah, this is told through, the majority of the book does take place in 1920, but it is also told through flashbacks, his experiences during the war. Next, The Summer Before the War by Helen Simonson. Taking place in Sussex, 1914. It's the end of England's brief Edwardian summer, and everyone agrees that the weather has never been so beautiful. Hugh Grange, down from his medical studies, is visiting his Aunt Agatha, who lives with her husband in the small idyllic coastal town of Rye. Agatha's husband works in the Foreign Office, and she is certain he will ensure that the recent saber-rattling over the Balkans won't come to anything. And Agatha has more immediate concerns. She has just risked her carefully built reputation by pushing for the appointment of a woman to replace the Latin master. When Beatrice Nash arrives with one trunk and several large crates of books, it is clear she is significantly more free-thinking and attractive than anyone believes a Latin teacher should be. For her part, mourning the death of her beloved father, who has left her penniless, Beatrice simply wants to be left alone to pursue her teaching and writing. But just as Beatrice comes alive to the beauty of the Sussex landscape and the colorful characters who populate Rye, the perfect summer is about to end. For despite Agatha's reassurances, the unimaginable is coming. Soon the limits of progress and the old ways will be tested as the small Sussex town and its inhabitants go to war. Next, The Winter Soldier by Daniel Mason. You know, at first I was like, The Winter Soldier? Like, you know, the Winter Soldier from, like, the Marvel Universe? And then I was like, okay, never mind. Silly me, you guys. Vienna, 1914. Lucius is a 22-year-old medical student when World War I explodes across Europe. Enraptured by romantic tales of battlefield surgery, he enlists, expecting a position at a well-organized field hospital. But when he arrives at a commandeered church tucked away high in a remote valley of the Carpathian Mountains, he finds a freezing outpost ravaged by typhus. The other doctors have fled, and only a single mysterious nurse named Sister Marguerite remains. They're totally going to have an affair, you guys. But Lucius has never lifted a surgeon's scalpel, and as the war rages across the winter landscape, he finds himself falling in love with the woman from whom he must learn a brutal makeshift medicine. Then one day, an unconscious soldier is brought in from the snow, his uniform stuffed with strange drawings. He seems beyond rescue until Lucius makes a fateful decision that will change the lives of doctor, patient, and nurse forever. From the gilded ballrooms of Imperial Vienna to the frozen forests of the Eastern Front, from hardscrabble operating rooms to battlefields thundering with Cossack cavalry, The Winter Soldier is a story of war and medicine, of family, of finding love and the sweeping tides of history, and finally of the mistakes we make and the precious opportunities to atone. This sounds pretty awesome. I gotta get my hands on this book. Next, this was made into a movie several years ago, Warhorse by Michael Morpurgo. Morpurgo? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ooh, and this movie made me cry, guys. Anyway, the book, in 1914, Joey, a beautiful bay red foal with a distinctive cross on his nose, is sold to the army and thrust into the midst of the war on the Western Front. With his officer, he charges toward the enemy, witnessing the horror of the battles in France. But even in the desolation of the trenches, Joey's courage touches the soldiers around him, and he is able to find warmth and hope. But his heart aches for Albert, the farmer's son he left behind. Will he ever see his true master again? Seriously, guys, I love this movie. It was so cute and adorable and heartbreaking. Okay, you guys, so that's it for my 15 recommendations for World War I themed historical fiction. In the comments below, have you guys read any of these books? Do you plan on reading any of them? And have I left any major books out? Just let me know your thoughts down below, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.